on the most explosive fighter in the history of boxing. And he gets hit by everyone. Everyone that fights him is slow as hell, and he's slow as hell. So...
You've been very adamant. You've been very adamant that you're going to stop him in one round. Can you enlighten us?
Man,
Tell us why. Tell us why
there's no way I can miss. He has the big ass hands like the koala-shaped hair.
Now, on numerous occasions, Rolly Romero has failed to acknowledge the skills and talent that Gervonta Tank Davis has, and he's been very critical of Gervonta Tank Davis in terms of his fights against Leo Santa Cruz and Isaac Cruz. You know, he said stuff such as Tank got beat up, and Tank before the knockout, you know, he was struggling against Santa Cruz, and that just Tank Davis in general doesn't have much boxing skills. And that poses the question, is Rolly Romero deluded? Now, you've got to ask yourself, what is Rolly Romero talking about? Because Gervonta Tank Davis is probably the biggest puncher in his weight class. Though, even though I disagree with the stuff he's saying, I understand why he is saying what he is saying. And let me explain this to you. Now, boxers are not like the average person. They don't work, you know, conventional jobs. They're doing something which the average person doesn't have the mental capacity to do. And I'm talking about going out in a stadium, fighting another man, you know, risking being knocked out, risking your health in order to get a paycheck. And a lot of these guys actually aren't getting big paychecks, especially when they start off and they're in the beginning phases of their career. Because you have to understand, most people don't reach that pay-per-view level, and most of them are just undercard fighters. So in order to deal with, you know, the anxiety that may come with being a boxer, you have to have a unnatural level of self-belief, which other people might call delusion. Rolly Romero here might just be trying to speak his desires or what he wants into existence. He might be gassing himself up so much to the point where he goes into the ring extremely confident, because we don't really know how confident he is. I'm assuming how he acts at the press conferences, what he says in interviews, you know, on these boxing channels. It's just this fake personality he's putting on. Not to call him fake, I'm just saying that he almost has this alter ego which he puts on, you know, in press conferences and in boxing interviews to hype himself up and be confident come fight night. So boxers, since they're not doing what the average person does, they're not going to quite have the same mindset of the average person. Their way of thinking is going to be completely different, because they're doing something which very few people have done and can relate to, especially at the elite level of boxing. You know, you've got millions of people watching at home, you got a packed out stadium. You need to be able to implement certain things that will help you cope with, I guess you could say, the pressure which comes with fighting at the top level. And, you know, this self-talk, you know, talking about Gervonta Tank Davis's head looking like a koala, you know, how he can't hit hard, is probably just Rolly Romero reassuring himself, you know. So we're going to call it, or some people are going to call it self-delusion, but I think from his perspective, it's just self-confidence, and he implements this in order to relax himself and reassure himself come fight night. But I do have to admit, it's quite astonishing, because I can't remember the last time when you've gone into a big fight, you've seen a fighter just completely discredit their opponent. He really is not giving Tank Davis much credit at all. He's being very critical. He is extremely unimpressed with Gervonta Tank Davis. You know, talking about his pay-per-view numbers, continually mentioning how he's not that good of a boxer and how he doesn't have many skills. He even brought up, you know, about Gervonta Tank Davis's friend Adrian Broner, and how he got beat up by Maidana, and Gervonta Tank Davis said, I'm paraphrasing here, you know, you ain't as good as Maidana. And, you know, he was obviously not going to agree with that, and he's saying that well, I'm going to beat you just like Maidana was able to beat Broner, and you know, I've got more skills and so on and so forth. And now if you look on the other hand, and if you see Gervonta Tank Davis's reaction to Rolly Romero, he seemed completely confused. You know, in the press conference, he did not know what Romero was going on about. But anyway, the fighters are ready for the fight. I'm assuming they're going to make weight. I've seen Rolly Romero. He looks very cut up. He looks very lean. He looks like, you know, he could make weight even today. But obviously the weigh-in is still yet to come. He's probably going to have to lose a little bit more weight in order to make weight. But it looks like the fight will be able to happen. I'll try to get a preview video or a keys to victory in terms of how the fighter should approach the fight in order to win. You know, I'll talk about each fighter. I'll try to mention strengths and weaknesses and styles and certain things that they can implement, because oftentimes people make predictions predicated off the assumption that a fighter is going to fight a certain way, but the fighter ends up fighting a completely different way. For example, when we look at the Wilder and Fury fight, the second fight, people assumed Tyson Fury was going to box, and they didn't believe he would come in 270-ish pounds. And they were shocked when they seen Fury attack Wilder. I was surprised with the Errol Spence fight, you know, against Sean Porter, because I was just shocked that Spence was willing to almost fight on the inside all night against Sean Porter. You know, I thought he would have tried to keep the fight at distance, but he showed his brilliant boxing skills and how he has an inside game. So I'm going to talk about how I would see the fight going based off, you know, the different type of strategies both fighters can employ. So let me know in the comments, guys, what you think, who you think is going to win. And please remember, guys, to like, share, and subscribe. It goes a long way and it encourages me to make more videos. Alright, peace.